Why chasing returns won't fix your retirement anxiety. Hi, I'm Jason Bowers and welcome to my channel. If investment returns solved retirement stress, most people wouldn't be anxious. The issue isn't performance, guys. It's uncertainty about income. So if you're in your late 50s, early 60s, watching the market daily and still unsure whether you can retire, this is about you. There are 3 planning gaps that returns alone simply will not fix. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's jump right in. So number 1, the income clarity gap. I have money, but can I live off of it? So what do we see on a daily basis? Well, we see our account balances and how they fluctuate, going up and down. You know, the amount of savings that goes into there to impact those account balances. We also see the market fluctuations, the different performances of the investments that we have in all of our different accounts. We also see the media and the doom and gloom and things of that nature. Those are the things that we see, and those are right in front of us as we move forward. What we typically don't see is a clear, concise monthly income plan for retirement. It's tough to plan for something that you don't know. If you don't know how much monthly income you're going to need in retirement, how the heck are you going to plan? Try planning a vacation when you don't even know where you're going. We would never even sit down at the table. So why would we try to plan for retirement or choose a saving amount? Hey, I'm saving 6% into my retirement account. Why? Why 6%? Is that too much? Is that the perfect number? Is it not enough? Most people just stare at me blankly when I ask that question. You need to understand what the destination is before we can start making decisions, because everything that we see generally does not tie into our goals and what we need. So answering that question, hey, I have money, can I live off of it, is typically the one that we try to answer the most inside of a financial plan. It's not about having all of the answers to every single question immediately. It's about answering the ones that are important. And having that income clarity gap, understanding what that income is going to be something that's really going to put you on pace to making sure that you're doing the right thing as you lead up to retirement, that 10-year window before retirement, the most important time of planning. So that second planning gap, the sequence of returns planning gap. This is the one that nobody understands until it punches them dead in the face. I actually did a recent video on this about introducing you to 2 different clients and hypothetical clients that get the same average rates of return, but completely and wildly different outcomes. The reason for that is because when those returns show up, if you retire into a couple of down years and you're taking withdrawals out of your nest egg, the future good years simply can't repair that damage. It becomes more and more challenging. Think about the people that retired at the end of 2007. Gosh, they've never had more money than they did in their entire lives, saved up to that day. Boom, they retire, markets are down 40%. The next year is even more challenging. And how do you recover from that? Your portfolio can be cut by 40% just from potential poor market returns, and you're withdrawing from those accounts. So you have to plan for that accordingly. My last video talked a lot about having options and creating flexibility. That is going to help from a sequence of return standpoint. You can't predict it. You can't plan for making sure that you retire into an up market. It's not something you can plan for progressively and proactively on the front end and say, we've got that solved. All you can do when you can't predict something is you can plan for flexibility. You want to plan for options. So when those variables present themselves at the most inconvenient time, you have options. You have that flexibility. You can change path. But with a very rigid income plan that offers no flexibility, then you can't adjust for those markets. So everything revolves around a flexible income plan with options, because we know we're going to get some good returns in retirement. We just don't know when they're going to show up. We also know we're going to have some negative years of returns in retirement. We just don't know when those are going to show up as well. So remember, it's not all about the returns that you get. It's when they typically show up that are going to have an impact on your overall plan. And that third gap, that third planning gap, is the decision framework gap. The framework that we operate within when we need to make decisions. Because without a framework, every market feels like a bad market. Even the good markets are stressful because every little dip feels like a threat. We need to have some framework in order to make appropriate decisions when things go sideways. I hate to tell you this, but retirement is not all rainbows and unicorns. There are variables, there's challenges. The assumptions that we make turn out to be off. There's things that we have to react to, even with the best laid plans. As many of you know that have been watching the channel for a while, I was in the military, and one of the sayings that they say in the military is even the best laid plans never survive the first bullet. I think Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Same premise, right? That doesn't mean, Jason, then why do we plan? Well, yes, we have to plan, because without a plan, then everything's a variable. And that's many punches to the mouth. And we don't want that. What we want is we want to plan for everything we possibly can. And then for the variables that are still unknown, whether it's the variable itself is unknown or the timing of the variable is unknown, we want to have flexibility and options. So when it presents itself, we can move. When it comes to the decision framework and having that framework ready for when those decisions to be made allows you to make informed and confident decisions. Most importantly, it removes the emotions from the decision-making process, and it makes things that typically would feel like a threat or cause anxiety no longer an issue. You no longer find yourself looking at the markets in your accounts on a daily basis. You no longer find that on Wednesday we had a bad day in the markets. How is that going to impact the next 30 years of my life? No, stop it. You don't need to worry about those things if you have a plan, if you have a framework for how to make decisions. And that framework should include a professional that can remove the emotions from the decision-making process and tap into their experience. Because what you're experiencing for the first time in retirement, like your first down market, gosh, that down market in retirement feels totally different than when you're working. A down market right now when I'm working doesn't feel nearly as bad because I got time until I retire and I'm saving into those accounts. But when you're in retirement, no more income coming in, and all of a sudden there's a down market and you're pulling money out of your accounts and they're down, you want to have a framework for making decisions, because sometimes you have to tap into that framework to make the decision to not do anything. And that's because we've removed the emotion that leads to emotional actions and emotional decisions. Emotional decisions very rarely lead to good decisions. So removing that emotion sometimes creates the clarity of doing absolutely nothing. We've planned for this. This is the storm that we knew was coming. We already have a plan in place. We're going to stay the course because that's the most appropriate thing to do. And that's when you're working within that decision framework, and that creates confident decisions. And with confidence, as I've said before, comes peace of mind. So in wrapping things up, chasing returns is not going to fix your anxiety. Why? Because anxiety isn't caused by low returns. What anxiety is caused by is not understanding how your money turns into income, how that income reacts to pressure, and what to do when things go sideways. So it's not about chasing returns and watching the markets every day. It's about having a plan. And heck, we preach this to our kids from a young age. It's not about trying to predict the future. It's about having a plan. Having a plan when things present themselves to us that we're not ready for. And so when you're working with your financial professional, constantly be asking, what does the plan look like? Because you don't want to spend the last decade of working and your first decade in retirement waking up and logging into the markets to see if you can afford the bills today. Nobody wants to do that. You want stress-free, anxiety-free, and flexibility inside of that retirement plan. You want to know that no matter what presents itself, that it's already been spoken about, we have a plan to address it. And if there's anything that's a variable that is a completely unknown, we're going to be okay because we have options. So don't chase returns. It is not going to fix your situation. A great day today could be a bad day tomorrow, and the opposite could happen as well. Have a plan in place that you believe in, and make sure you're working with that professional. Again, my contact information, my direct email will be linked in the description. Reach out to me. Let me review your plan and maybe think about some other stones that may not have been overturned. And if you don't have a plan, I'll tell you what, I'd be more than happy to work with you to come up with one. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.